KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader.
Oh my God.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Good evening. This is
Avi Bernard.
Very happy I am to be back in the United States and back on the network, even for so short a visit as this one. A lot of people asked us to do it again, so it's gratifying to get the chance now. Personally, I've never met anybody who didn't like
KBLA Talk 1580.
but it seems I do have a reputation for the uncanny. I'm an overpaid producer with pleasant reasons to rejoice, and I do. But surely my right to having more than enough is canceled if I don't use that more to help those who have less. We must each day earn what we own. A healthy man owes to the sick all that he can do for them. An educated man owes to the ignorant all that he can do for them. A free man owes to the world's slaves all that he can do for them. If we can't die in behalf of progress, we can live for it. If we waste that gift, we won't have anywhere to hide from the indignation of history.
This is the Friday edition of Areva Martin in Real Time with Avi Bernard.
We did it. We did it, Joe.
The dawn is hours before we knew it. Somehow we do it.
The cry for racial justice, some 400 years in the making, moves us. The dream of justice for all will be deferred no longer.
And neither will the Friday edition. That's right. It's Avi Bernard here with you every Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Let's get you caught up. The House voted 286 to 134 today to pass a sweeping $1.2 trillion government funding bill, sending it to the Senate just hours before the deadline to prevent a shutdown. Shortly thereafter, the Senate voted 78 to 18 to advance the bill procedurally, but all 100 senators will need to greenlight a final vote to skip other hurdles and pass the bill before the midnight deadline. If that doesn't happen, the government would be forced into a partial shutdown on Saturday morning. President Joe Biden has called on Congress to pass it quickly and said he will sign the bill. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has filed a motion to remove Speaker Mike Johnson, doing so just as the House voted to avoid said government shutdown. Johnson, who's a Republican from Louisiana, has served as Speaker for 5 months, having taken over for Kevin McCarthy, who was ousted from the job under a similar process. Greene stopped short of forcing a vote to remove him, calling her motion a quote-unquote warning. But House Democrats say Mike Johnson has an option to control his future over a motion to vacate from Marjorie Taylor Greene, and that option is putting a Ukraine aid package on the floor for a vote. Several Democrats from across the ideological spectrum said in interviews they would motion to table Greene's resolution if it came to a vote, if Mike Johnson put a Ukraine aid package on the House floor for a vote. And in recent days, Johnson has indicated privately to some Democratic lawmakers that he would put a Ukraine aid bill up for a vote after lawmakers came back from their Easter recess. Johnson has signaled that foreign aid would be the House's next priority after wrapping up government funding this week. Wisconsin Republican Representative Mike Gallagher, who announced last month that he would not run for re-election, confirmed in a statement today that he will actually leave Congress early on April 19th. His departure will leave Republicans just one vote to spare on legislation, meaning if 2 Republicans vote against any legislation, Democrats will be able to block any legislation if they all vote together. Gallagher's departure before the end of his term is another blow to Speaker Mike Johnson and House Republicans, who have been struggling to govern and demonstrate stability in Congress. Men in camouflage broke into a Moscow concert hall and opened fire, shooting an unknown number of people, according to Russia's prosecutor general. Russia's state-owned news agency, TASS, is reporting that Russia's security agency has put the preliminary casualty count at 40 people dead and more than 100 injured. In a separate event, a fire started inside Crocus City Hall, a large concert venue northwest of central Moscow, firefighters have evacuated about 100 people from the basement of the building, and efforts are underway to rescue people from the roof, according to Russian emergency officials. And finally, sentencing has concluded for the 6 white former officers in Mississippi who pleaded guilty to breaking into a home without a warrant and torturing 2 black men. We covered this story on the show. High-ranking former Deputy Brett McAlpin, 53, received a sentence of about 27 years and was the 5th former law enforcement officer sentenced this week by U.S. District Court Judge Tom Lee after pleading guilty to the attack. The assault involved beatings, the repeated use of stun guns, and assaults with a sex toy before one of the victims was shot in the mouth in a mock execution. The final member of the group, former Richland police officer Joshua Hartfield, was given a sentence of about 10 years yesterday afternoon. So, as you may know, today is the group chat. It's the Friday group chat. We'll be joined by Dr. Sean Fletcher and Danny Griffin. And next hour, we have a lot to talk about. Perhaps March Madness. How's your bracket looking? Perhaps Candace Owens out at the Daily Wire. Perhaps, what's her name? Azalea Banks and Erykah Badu having a problem with Beyonce's album cover. Some major hateration there. And of course, Dodger superstar Shohei Ohtani, his interpreter fired. What is going on with that situation? We'll see if we can discuss that as well. But first, the latest news of the day. And of course, later this hour, what's in the white entitlement with a little bit of a twist today. That's coming up when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Climate is king.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means caring about the climate. You might have heard that we announced a pretty bold 12-month, $2 million campaign to do 4 things. Increase climate literacy, turn up the volume on communities of color in the climate conversation, connect everyday people with the resources they need to survive and thrive, and highlight frontline climate justice crusaders of color throughout this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice.
We want cleaner air.
Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough.
Tax Talk with Straight Talk.
You give and you give. This tax season, you get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data and a Samsung Galaxy A14 included when you buy an extended Silver Unlimited plan. So you can give your janky phone to your kid. Yeah!
Switch to Straight Talk. Find us at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com. Device offer ends 4/14/24. Taxes and fees apply.
Did you know one of the best investments you can make? It's in yourself. At My Computer Career, in just a few months, you can start your new career in the high-demand, recession-resistant field of information technology. Isn't it time you invest in you and start a career in networking, cybersecurity, AI, or upskill to boost your current IT career? So get the ROI you deserve at My Computer Career. No experience necessary. Start now at mycomputercareer.edu.
Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're looking for the most epic place on Earth, let's start at the base of a massive waterfall. Then trek through the thick jungle. Then climb to the peak of a snowy mountaintop. Then once you get there, keep going. Because with intelligent 4x4 and 7 drive modes, in a Nissan Pathfinder, the search is the real adventure.
Available feature. Intelligent 4x4 cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions.
The way we spend our time defines who we are. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And it is the Friday edition, and today it is the group chat with Dr. Sean Fletcher and Danny Griffin. Danny Griffin is an educator, entrepreneur, and motivational speaker. Dr. Sean Fletcher is a professor at San Jose State University. And I will get into my disappointment in a recent result in the NCAA tournament next hour. I will try to refrain because this is the news hour. We will talk about what is going on, but a major upset has just happened in the tournament, and it really, really throws my bracket into disarray. But we'll get into that later. First of all, gentlemen, appreciate you being here, and appreciate all of you for being here with us as well, whether you are listening on 1580 AM here in Los Angeles or the free KBLA app, or, of course, whether you're listening to and watching us on YouTube. You can watch us on YouTube. It's true. So let's get into it for today. A lot of drama in the House of Representatives. Firstly, they voted today to pass a $1.2 trillion government funding bill, sending it to the Senate just hours before the deadline to prevent a shutdown. And then the Senate voted to approve it, but apparently there's some procedural thing where they have to have all 100 senators need to greenlight the final vote in order to skip any other hurdles. But what I wanted to talk about was, as a result of that, skipping or preventing the government shutdown, Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson is now facing a motion to remove him from Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, and this is probably a direct result of him allowing the government not to be shut down, because Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene and her folks don't care about what happens to people. And the fact that Mike Johnson did something responsible, it to her is a no-no. So now Mike Johnson has been Speaker for about 5 months. He took over for Kevin McCarthy, who, if you remember, he signed a deal when he became Speaker that any one of his members could file a motion to remove him. And then he ended up getting removed after a motion from crazy Representative Matt Gaetz. And then chaos ensued. They had a really hard time finding a replacement speaker, who eventually ended up being Mike Johnson, who is even more conservative than Kevin McCarthy, but he wears glasses, so I guess people think he's okay. But now, because he's been somewhat responsible in terms of not letting the government shut down, he's drawing a lot of anger from those Republicans. So now this vote is not imminent. It'll likely go to like a committee where they could kind of shut it down, but because Marjorie Taylor Greene is not forcing a vote, which she could also do, but she said this is like a warning. So, Dr. Fletcher, you've been on hold a while. Appreciate you. What's going on in your mind about this latest drama in the Republicans who don't actually care about governing?
Well, happy Friday, good brothers and everybody listening. First off, it's more of the same, and this has been signaled for quite a while. It's political posturing. This is a pivotal election year, and the Republicans have signaled that they're pushing all their chips into the center of the table, and they're willing to do anything necessary by hook or crook to get power back. And they showed it with Kevin McCarthy, and they've effectively told Mike Johnson that you're a puppet and don't view yourself as anything more than a puppet. We want you to stonewall everything that Democrats try to pursue. The man didn't really even know how to clap for something universally positive during the State of the Union address. He was so held up by what the optics would look like and what his role is or is not. He has literally positioned himself as almost like a lame duck speaker, to where he really has no identity of his own. So Matt Gaetz down in Florida, he came out and effectively said he's going to withhold a vote to potentially unseat Mike Johnson. And his reasoning was nothing more than he's scared that a Democrat is going to get the seat, not because it's right or wrong or because Mike Johnson, God forbid, actually worked across the aisle with Chuck Schumer to not shut down our government. It is all political posturing at this point, and I think it's going to get worse.
Danny, jump in here. What do you think about this latest, as what Dr. Fletcher would call political posturing on the part of Marjorie Taylor Greene? And it's hard to say that Dr. Fletcher is wrong here because everything she does is for show. And now, do you think they could actually follow through with this attempt to remove him? Because I just talked about the craziness that ensued once they did remove Kevin McCarthy. So do you think they'll actually try to do this?
No, I do not. This is her flexing her muscles and also creating an uproar. This is what she does. She's bringing attention to herself. And also we know that she wants to be the speaker. And, the last ousting of the previous speaker left the door open to oust another one. And Here we go. So the thing is, it's election time. And we all know that it's going to be some back and forth. But at the same time, she is strategically doing this to scare him, to let him know, to put him on notice. Hey, I'm coming for you. You better do what you got to do. If not, it's consequences. But as we all know, he has some options to stay as speaker, and I'm sure that'll come up a little later.
Well, he has one specific option that I'm going to get into right now. Thank you for that segue, Danny, because House Democrats say that Mike Johnson does have an option to control his future over a motion to vacate, and that option is putting a Ukraine aid package on the floor, which he has been hesitant to do because a lot of his crazy pants members don't want to support Ukraine anymore because the air treason, Donald Trump, doesn't want to support Ukraine either. So he's been avoiding putting this bill on the floor, even though it has majority support. It has clear majority support and would pass, and thus would likely get aid flowing back to Ukraine in a war that they are really struggling in because of the lack of aid we've been sending them. So if he does get this motion, if he does receive this motion to vacate from Marjorie Taylor Greene, Democrats say, look, if you put this bill on the floor, that will just put it up for a vote. You ain't even got to vote for it. Just put it up for a vote. Then we got your back if they try to remove you from your speakership. So good move, bad move by the Democrats. Dr. Fletcher, what do you think?
Isn't it crazy and inhumane how they're playing political chess with people's lives this way? Just before we even dive further into, the ramifications of it, the Democrats are playing poker. Mike Johnson is trying to save his backside, and the Republicans are trying to jockey for position through their elected Speaker of the House. And it's all a power grab. And the Ukrainian people and others are in harm's way while we're playing these games. So I wanted to make sure that was centered before any of this is unpacked. Well, because it's easy to get into the political side of it.
Well, let me just offer a little bit of pushback before you get into it further, Dr. Fletcher, because the Democrats have tried everything to get this bill passed. They have tried everything. They've worked with the Democrats on border issues, for crying out loud, something that they have never wanted to work with with the Republicans on. And they've even conceded a lot on border issues that they did not want, because they wanted to pass aid for Ukraine. And this is just the latest tool that Democrats are trying to use because they don't have much at their disposal to get Mike Johnson to put this bill up for a vote. But go ahead.
Yeah, and I hear you. And I tend to vote Democrat, but I'm one to believe that, it's typically the lesser of evils. Democrats' hands are not squeaky clean either in any of this. However, with this particular situation, Democrats are doing what they have to do. They understand Mike Johnson's position. They understand the political pawn that he is right now. And anyone who was in that role, besides Donald Trump, which isn't it funny that they were even putting him up to be Speaker of the House once upon a time. But anyone outside of that are going to be a political pawn, because at the end of the day, the GOP, they answer to the leader of their party, who is still Donald Trump. So if he says jump, they're going to say how high. And Mike Johnson may not report directly to Donald Trump, but he understands that he's tethered to what he wants, because those GOP within the House and the Senate are the ones who are pulling the strings for him. So it's a vicious political theater that, my hope is that Democrats don't overplay their hand, and ultimately the aid gets to the people that it needs to get to. But it's all political chess.
Well, you have to play political chess when you have one party that's serious and one party that's not. And that's why I got to push back on the lesser of two evils quote that you hear a lot about people when they talk about voting for a Democratic president like Joe Biden over Donald Trump, or now in the case that you're using it as just the party in general is lesser of two evils. And so when you compare someone, and I could take us to the top of the hour on this, to the bottom of the hour on this, but I won't. But I'm just gonna say, if you compare what Joe Biden is trying to do and what Donald Trump is trying to do, there's not two evils, one of which is just a little bit better. There's two completely different people with two versions of what they want to do that could not be more different. So Republicans want to cut Medicare and Medicaid, Social Security. They want to cut programs for children. They want to cut anything that basically helps public good. And they want to use the money that they get from those cuts to give to put in a tax break for Republicans, for rich people. And Joe Biden, and I'm not like some Joe Biden stan. I'm not like saying the man is perfect or he's never said anything that I don't agree with or that he's never made mistakes, because of course he has. But he's a reasonable human being who acknowledges that he's made mistakes. He's grown, he's changed over the years, and now he is offering policies that will make the country better. He's canceling student loan debt. He is trying to expand Obamacare. He is taking steps on climate change, like requiring that 2/3 of all new cars that are manufactured be electric vehicles. You could not have any more of a stark difference. So whenever I hear someone say the lesser of two evils, it just kind of makes me cringe, because it's not two evils, one of which is just slightly better. It is two entities that could not be more different. And so before I go to you,
But
Danny,
there's levels to it. There's and you're right, we could take it to the top of the hour, but there's levels to it. And from my estimation, if we're talking about one particular measure that's on the floor, yeah, that can be unpacked in terms of who's selling their soul to the devil to get some political maneuvering and power to ultimately make it pass. We've seen levels to that as well. Overarching, yes, absolutely, you're correct. That's not what we were talking about. But overarching, absolutely. When it comes down to whom I'm going to put my vote behind, yes, it's night and day in terms of what we've seen from the left and the right. But again, as you mentioned before, you're not some Joe Biden stan. I stand in that when we talk about the overarching two-party system in this nation. And when we talk about who's in love with you, I don't think either are. But it's more nuanced than that when we start putting our vote behind someone, which is a much deeper conversation that I'm not going to send us down that rabbit hole. But absolutely, from an overarching standpoint, I'm with you on that, yes.
All right, Danny, let's get you in here. The Democrats, we started this conversation about lesser of two evils, which I do not agree with that term at all when referencing Republicans versus Democrats. But we started this conversation because the Democrats are doing what they can to try to get aid to the people of Ukraine. That's what this is. This is Democrats doing what they can, because Republicans have shut every other option down for getting aid to the people of Ukraine. So Democrats are saying, look, if you will finally put this vote up, Speaker Johnson, we will protect you from being removed as Speaker, because we have tried everything else to get aid to the Ukrainian people. But if you will put it up, we will go as far as to save you from your own party removing you for doing the responsible thing. What are your thoughts, Danny?
That's strong army. They're strong army. Regardless, you got to stick to your morals and your integrity and what you believe in. because now Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying, do the American people and do the Republicans want this country to see a Republican that is controlled and that is a puppet by the Democrats? The way it looks, okay? You reap what you sow, what you put on the hook is what you catch, and vice versa. It doesn't look good. Either side doesn't look good by the manipulation in the games right now. And it's TMI because by Taylor Greene
I just don't agree with that, man. I don't
by her putting it out there like that is letting us know.
But hold on, Dan. You said either side looks good. How do the Democrats not look good by trying to do whatever it takes to get aid to Ukraine?
I understand that, but look what they're dealing with. Don't contradict yourself now. Because if it wasn't the Ukraine thing, they wouldn't be doing this.
Right.
I get it.
They're principled.
I get it.
They're trying to get this done for the Ukrainian people because they know that they are dying over there.
No, I get it. But I'm just saying the last speaker, we had nothing to do with him and we let him drown.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm just saying from a perspective of having a tight bipartisanship democracy without the games, okay? And that's why a lot of people want a party that has a little more neutrality, that's a little more down the middle, because of stuff like this.
But see, when people talk about parties being down the middle, it always comes back to Democrats, though.
It does. It leans towards Democrats.
They expect
for sure.
Democrats to be responsible, but when Republicans do any kind of BS and don't want to do anything that that Democrats are willing to work with them on, then it doesn't fall back on them.
No, I understand.
But Democrats get, but how come y'all ain't being responsible?
No, I understand. But I just don't like the narrative that they're going to point that the speaker is going to be just solely a puppet and they're going to make it look bad and then try to throw propaganda on the Democrats opposed to saying what is going to get accomplished with the aid to Ukraine. I think they're going to look at that part and not the other part with the aid. That's just me, thinking that way. Mm-hmm. Because it's propaganda at the end of the day.
All right, well, we will continue this conversation. We have a lot to discuss. This whole situation with Speaker Mike Johnson potentially being removed. It's hilarious to me, but I think the Democrats are smart to try to use this to do whatever they can to stop Russia from winning that war over there. Because if Russia wins that war, it's not good for any of us, and Democrats understand that. And Republicans out here playing games, and Democrats are doing what they can to prevent them from playing those games. And of course, we'll also have What in the White Entitlement coming your way in the next few minutes. And as I said, it's with a twist today. What's that mean? You will find out after this news, traffic, and sports update on KBLA Talk 1580.
Areva time is the right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Tyreek Wynn. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. The state of Georgia has executed its first death row inmate in over 4 years. 59-year-old Willie Pye, who is black, was put to death late Wednesday by lethal injection after the Supreme Court denied his final appeals. Pye was convicted of the kidnapping, rape, and murder of his ex-girlfriend. One of New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who is black, advisors is accused of sexual harassment just days after the mayor faced allegations of his own. Recently retired NYPD Sergeant Roxanne Ludman was filed a lawsuit against Timothy Pearson, alleging he touched her inappropriately nearly 24 times, asked her about her marital status, and facilitated uncomfortable conversations. Quavo, who is black, is looking to give back to the Atlanta community and reduce gun violence. On Wednesday, the rapper announced that Spark Grants initiative, which will give $10,000 to 10 different Atlanta, Georgia-focused organizations. That's the latest. I'm Tyreek Wynn on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
There's ongoing road work in the northbound lanes of PCH as you're approaching Topanga Canyon, and so with that right lane taken away, it's a heavy drive as you're coming away from Sunset Boulevard. Southbound side, just seeing some minor delays as you come up onto Mescal Canyon. Eastbound side of the 10, a rough ride leaving Santa Monica. You're on the brakes as you come away from Pico, and that's going to stay so off and on over towards the 110. And on the 110, you'll find delays both directions. Northbound side is heavy as you leave Gardena. From the 91, you'll see the brake lights all the way to the 101. Southbound side slows just before the 101 to get to about Century Boulevard, and not bad up ahead as you reach the 405.
Need to hire? You need Indeed. Their all-in-one platform helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all from one place. And Indeed's interview tool lets you schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from their website. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament is underway today. USC plays their first-round game Saturday afternoon against Texas A&M Corpus Christi. First game for the top-seeded Trojans in 13 days since they defeated Stanford to win the Pac-12 Conference title. 1:30 p.m. tip-off tomorrow at the Galen Center. Live coverage on ESPN. UCLA plays their first-round game tomorrow. They're at Pauley Pavilion against California Baptist. 6:30 p.m. tip on ESPN2. Two HBCU schools are on your women's bracket. Norfolk State is at Stanford tonight at 7 on ESPN2. Tomorrow morning at 10, Jackson State is at UConn. That game will be live on KABC Channel 7. Tomorrow night at 7 here on KBLA, join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for Out of Bounds. You can join the conversation at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcasts of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
This Easter, March 31st at 11:07 a.m., ECM will be at the Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center. We are inviting everyone to meet us there as we will be presenting the Black Resurrection Experience. What good is Jesus' resurrection if we are still living in cultural graves? ECM will present a stage play production that will address Black dignity, Black worth, Black unity, Black ownership, Black vote, police brutality, generational wealth, mental health, Black power through Jesus' power, and most of all, your purpose in life through the murder of Jesus Christ. And we will tell this entire story with singing, dancing, acting, rapping, with a little bit of preaching from yours truly, Pastor Shep. The Black Resurrection Experience. Easter morning at the Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center. It's totally free, so come get your free.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
As we go a little something like this.
Hey, it is me, D.L. Hughley, and I am thrilled to be heard weekdays in my hometown on KBLA Talk 1580. So check out the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580. We got a whole lot to talk about, let me tell you.
That's for the real.
KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. There's no time like the present. Let's get back to more of Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And we are back on the Friday edition of Areva Martin in Real Time. It is the Friday group chat with Danny Griffin and Dr. Sean Fletcher. And we not all seeing eye to eye today, and that's okay, because that's not always how things work. And I just I'm always going to continue to make the case that you cannot compare Republicans to Democrats when it comes to being a serious party and the things that each party wants to do, the people that each party are looking out for. And I'll even throw in what always confounds me the most. If you're a black person who's voting with Republicans, then you are quite literally voting with actual Nazis, people who wear swastikas, they are voting Republican because they think the Republican Party aligns with their ideals. And because it does align with their ideals. And they make that clear. They make it more and more clear every day. So I'm going to continue to say that because it's the case. It is the case. And we can, I'm not saying you got to just vote Democrat no matter what. I'm just saying look at what each party does. And don't listen to what they say. Look at what they do. Because people are always going to walk back from things that they've done and make it sound like they don't really want to do these things. And Trump will say, oh, I don't want to cut Social Security. I don't want to cut Medicare. But it's been in his budget every year that he was president. So let's not forget about those things. But anyway, gentlemen, I talked a lot. I want to give you, each of you, if you wanted to say anything else about that before we move on. Dr. Fletcher?
Oh, I thought you were going to play the host, throw down the host big joker on us and move to the next.
See, that's not how I don't get down like that, especially with y'all. Come on now.
I know you don't. I'm kidding. All right, but with this whole conversation is indicative, and I was thinking it through because I feel a similar point of caution to where our political system is so divided now to where in years past, I felt more comfortable being critical of the Democratic Party, knowing I was going to vote Democrat because I didn't feel that a criticism of the Democrats would potentially send somebody to the other side, and the stakes are too high for that. And exactly. Like I was saying at the start of this conversation, there are always line items within the bill that get compromised that I disagree with. And it becomes such a visceral conversation in general, not between us, but in general, to where it's almost like maybe I should just sit on my hands for this one and not criticize the concessions they made at the border so we could get this. Or maybe I shouldn't be publicly critical, I should say at least, of anything that Joe Biden stands for or that Kamala Harris may have mentioned that I disagree with, because I don't want to divide this unified front because the stakes are so high. So it's such an unfortunate set of circumstances that we're functioning in as Democrats, quite honestly. I can't speak for the other side, but there are some things from an accountability standpoint I would love to be able to parse in the open.
Yeah.
But the stakes are so high, you just can't run that risk in today's political climate. It's unfortunate.
And that's really well said, because that's exactly where I stand. And like I don't have a problem saying that you can be a fan of someone and also tell them where they need to get better. And that's true for politics too. And as you said, though, Dr. Fletcher, in this climate, you say something and then everyone's going to take that as an excuse. Oh, well, I might as well vote for Trump anyway because it's the same thing, you know. And people can't have these nuanced conversations. They don't understand that you can, or they don't agree that you can say, oh, this person needs to do better at this, and also they're the far, far better option. And and with Joe Biden and with Democrats generally, you can still get to them by pressuring them. Republicans do not respond to pressure because we talk about white entitlement on the show. They know they feel like they're entitled to this power, and no matter what you want, they're going to do what they want because they feel like they're entitled. They don't respond to public opinion. Doesn't matter what percentage of people wants gun rights. It doesn't matter what percentage of people want abortion access. They don't want it. And so they're going to try to do what they want, not what the people want. And people can't hold them accountable other than by voting them out. But with Democrats, you can publicly pressure them. And that's, I think, why, like you said, Dr. Fletcher, it's good to, at certain points, do that. But in this election year, man, we got to be careful about that, because let Trump win and then see what happens. And then I guarantee you he wins. If he's still alive in 4 years, he's going to try to run for another term. I guarantee, even though you're supposed to be termed out, they're going to use some BS excuse saying, well, they robbed my other term, even though he legitimately lost. They robbed my term, and I didn't get to have my 2 terms back to back, so I should be able to have another one. And Republicans are going to go along with it because that's what they do. They go along with everything he says. And Carl Brewer on YouTube says, why should Dems do any favors for Speaker Johnson? So, like I was saying, Carl, they're not doing favors for him. They're doing favors for Ukraine. And they're doing it via telling him, listen, put this vote on the floor and we will save you because you put the vote on the floor. And they're not doing it because they want to save him or do him a favor. They're doing it because they want to save the Ukrainian people and prevent Russia from winning that war. And that is the only option they have at this moment. Danny, anything else before we move on?
No, that's smart of you to say that, Avi, because a lot of people only hear sound bites. A lot of people chop up what people are saying.
Exactly.
So you have to give the totality of the conversation. But in hindsight, a lot of people only hear what they want to hear too. And people take information and create misinformation off the correct information, but you didn't get the totality of it. So that's good that you're saying that. So it's not about just saving Speaker Johnson. It's about Ukraine. But people have to be educated on Ukraine. So if you're not educated on why helping Ukraine is important, then you're gonna be like, man, we got to worry about our own problems over here. Look with this, you know, if I live in the inner city, if I'm on Medicare, I'm 68, 69, and I'm on limited fixed income, and I'm worried about another country that I ain't even been out the state in 30 years. Man, forget all that. That's what people may say. But the more that you're educated and you understand that the global economy of other countries, the global political climate of other countries affect us because we all trade with each other. We all do tourism. We all connect with each other. We have policies. We have allies. We have so many things that connect us, that collects the globe, that if one person is a tyrant of a major superpower, it can offset the whole world. And that's what we're dealing with. And right now, we have some dictator things going on. We have mass killings. There's a lot of things going on right now in Russia right now, right? And that's going to trickle around the globe. And then he's going to annex other countries. And he's going to continue. So just imagine if it's 3 or 4 Ukraines down the line in the next 10, 15 years. That's going to be a disaster. So we have to stop this and nip this in the bud, you know. But a lot of people are not going to get educated because a lot of people don't watch CNN, Fox, and all these different
And those
channels.
aren't necessarily the best places to get educated.
It's not, because all of them have an agenda.
You got to actually read. You can listen to this show, but I'm telling you, you got to do your own research.
Yes, you do.
Because people are always going to have their own opinions, and you got to look into what people are actually doing. You don't have to believe what I'm telling you. I'm just trying to get you to think about it and look into it for yourself.
Yes.
And let's say that all the things I just said weren't true. Let's say that Joe Biden and Donald Trump were equal on everything else. But Donald Trump is an irresponsible idiot. Look at what he did with classified information. That puts the entire country at risk. Let's say that he had all the same agenda items as Joe Biden. He is putting our national security at risk because he took classified documents to his house and had it in his bathroom. He's given away like our nuclear secrets to Australian billionaires because he wants access. This dude is $500 million in debt. They don't let people get security clearances when they have anywhere near that amount of debt, any kind of debt, because they know that when people have debt, they will do whatever they have to do to get out of that debt. And then if a foreign country approaches him, hey, I know you got this debt. I'll hook you up if you have this. You make this policy. You think Trump wouldn't do that? He ain't got no principles. Y'all acting like this dude is a regular dude. He's not a regular dude. Joe Biden is a regular dude. It pisses me off so much that people act like this dude ain't crazy. This dude said we should drink bleach. He really said that. And people try to say after, he was joking. He was not joking. He said, well, what if he was at a news conference in the White House press room during the height of COVID, and he said, well, bleach, it really works good on surface. What if we tried to do that inside the body? And he said we should drink bleach,
people
y'all.
Actually did that.
And yeah. Okay, so y'all want to vote for that dude? Listen, if you vote for that dude, I don't know what the hell to tell you.
And he's a gangster. It comes from criminality, white collar crime.
He's being prosecuted. All these things he's being prosecuted for aren't like some witch hunts, like he likes to say they are. This because he did all those things.
But some people are going to be like, oh, that's opinionated. I didn't know that. When did I say, how do I believe you? And then they're going to say, well, the other side is messing with China, and look at his son, look at our president's son, and that's all not true. So that's why I say you have to dig through the truth, because if you watching TV for a second and you watching the wrong channel, they may oppose exactly what you just said, Avi, and then you turn to another channel and then they're promoting another thing. So that's why you got to do your own research and understand, and don't just go to the poll just to vote for somebody because of their race or because of their party. Vote for what's right, and what's right now is the right thing to do to keep everybody together and prevent insurrections, right? Voter fraud, and voter intimidation. You don't want to give people water. You want people to stand in long lines, elderly people. You do voter suppression in areas that are rural, with people that are older. People have the poverty level is different.
Trying to suppress black votes in
black
major
votes.
black cities?
Yeah, you do that in Mississippi and some of the rural areas in the South, and then you don't
They did it in major cities.
Yeah,
they
did
it in Michigan and in Georgia and in Pennsylvania, in black cities in all those states.
They tried to storm. Didn't they try to storm the state capitol? And some people tried to storm state capitol in Michigan. You got people with tiki lamps in Charlottesville. It's a lot going on right now, and we definitely. And that's why I say, when you promote what's right, people can see that. I think a lot of people just get fed up with each side overselling and over promoting one side or degrading the other side. I think once you talk about what's right and you pouring out the love aspect of everything and how to keep people together, I think people can start to see it for themselves. But some people get caught up into channels. Some people say CNN, they call it the Crying Negro Network. And then Fox, they call it.
I've never heard that.
Oh, I've heard that before. and then some people talk crazy about Fox.
Who calls it the Crying
Negro
Negro?
I've heard that before.
That's your Republican homeboy.
No. I got all types of homeboys. I listen. I'm just telling you. So people discriminate on both sides, but I'm just saying what's right is not Trump. At the end of the day, we can't vote this guy back in office. Whatever it takes, he cannot win this election. Right, legally. I had to say that disclaimer. Not whatever it takes, but legally.
Of course, we don't do that. We don't do that. We don't do what they do. All right, so let's step aside real quick, and when we come forward, we will bring you the What in the White Privilege segment today with a twist.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. Visit jpmorganchase.com/racial equity and get the tools to help reach your financial goals.
Imagine with me here for a minute the most beautiful panoramic setting. Maybe it's an endless ocean, waves crashing on a beach, or a crystal clear mountain lake, peaceful and quiet. Or maybe it's just little kids playing in the park down the street. Wherever your imagination takes you, now imagine right smack in the middle of this perfect picture, a piece of litter. Just one piece right there in the middle of it all. Doesn't exactly fit, does it? In fact, even though it's just one piece, now it's all you can see. That one piece ruins everything. And that's the thing about litter. It doesn't take much to ruin everything. One thing's for sure, it simply does not belong anywhere in California. So here's the good news. If we work together, we will change it. We don't have to let litter, even just one piece, ruin your perfect picture. Not anymore, not ever again. Clean California, zero litter is the goal. Brought to you by Caltrans and CleanCA.com.
You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580, where climate is king. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA reminds you that when we fight, we win, and we don't black down. LA Community Action Network, or LA CAN, was formed in 1999 when 25 residents of downtown LA came together and acknowledged the problems that existed in their community and made a commitment to do something about those problems, to stand together, organize, and become a force in the community that demands change. Civil rights and preventing the criminalization of poverty are their core projects. In addition, they take on women's rights, the human right to housing, and healthy food access. LA Can also has projects focused on economic development, civic participation, voter engagement, and community media. While downtown LA remains their home base, with a particular emphasis on the Skid Row community, in 2007, they expanded their housing and healthy food access work into South Central Los Angeles. LA Can believes that power for low-income people and people of color is achieved through a large, active, and well-informed member base that utilizes a multitude of methods to advance their messages and goals. If you'd like to join the Los Angeles Community Action Network and organize people to fight back against oppression, please visit cangress.org. That's cangress.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The way we spend our time defines who we are. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And we're back. It's the Friday edition of Areva Martin in real time, and it is the group chat, the Friday group chat with my brothers Danny Griffin and Dr. Sean Fletcher. And it is time for the segment we have every week, What's in the White Privilege? Andy, who's at the door?
It's white.
So I said that the segment was going to be with a twist today, and like I always say, I don't have this segment to diss white people. I have it to point out white privilege. And you can use that privilege in a good way. And that's why I said it's with a twist today. It's because this week's What in the White Privilege is someone using their privilege for good. And so I'm going to play a clip from Jake Tapper from CNN. He was a guest on a podcast, and he talked about it, but he ran this story. He did this story where he talked about how a black person had been wrongfully accused, and his journalism helped to change that situation around. So, Andy, let's play that clip.
CJ Rice was a patient of my dad's. My dad's a pediatrician, and he practiced in a lower income section of Philadelphia for most of his 40 plus years, 50 plus years of being a pediatrician. And CJ Rice was just one of many. My dad saw him in 2011. He had just been shot in what CJ says was a case of mistaken identity. He was riding his bike with his buddy, and I don't know, he was a low-level drug dealer in South Philly, but not violent. He'd never been picked up for anything violent. And so he could barely walk. He spent time in the hospital. His pelvis had been shattered. He had stitches all up and down his chest, and he could barely walk, much less run. And then a few days after my dad saw him, there was another shooting in Philadelphia, South Philly. Again, in this one, nobody was killed, and thankfully nobody was even seriously injured. But the people who were injured could not identify who did it. And then the police got a tip overnight, came in, and shown a photo lineup. One of the victims says that CJ did it. This is the only evidence against CJ. And it was really bad, really weak testimony. But there was a trial in 2013. My dad testified. But CJ had the worst lawyer in the world. She was just awful. She let things be admitted that should never have been admitted. She was just incompetent. If you or I, Tim, or our children were ever charged with anything similar, we would have much, much better representation. And in fact, it's been said before that it's better to be a guilty, rich, white man in America when it comes to the judicial system than it is to be a poor, black, innocent person. Long story short, and it's too late for that, I guess. I've already gone.
No.
But CJ goes to prison. He tries to get out. He tries to not escape. He tries to appeal the process. In 2016, he writes to my dad asking for medical records from the hospital where he had been taken after he was shot. And he and my dad strike up a correspondence, a pen and paper letter stamped correspondence, because he's in prison,
right,
and make this effort to try to get him out of prison. The appeals process fails. Not surprisingly, they usually do. The system is designed to protect itself. And after the final appeal failing, my dad finally listens to me. I've been begging him, let me write about this. Let me tell the story. I start working on the story in 2020. In 2022, The Atlantic publishes the story. It's called This Is Not Justice, a Philadelphia teenager and the empty promises of the Sixth Amendment, which is the right to counsel. And that fall, my dad hires a different attorney who's working on a habeas petition to argue that CJ's attorney was so incompetent, it wasn't a fair trial. And what happens after that is good news. The system then starts working for CJ for the first time ever. The district attorney's office grants a habeas petition in September. The first judge grants it in October. The second judge grants it in November. And Monday of this week, we announced that the Philadelphia district attorney had dropped all charges, exonerated CJ, and he is a free man.
There you go. And so that's why I wanted to play that clip from Jake Tapper. And I'm not saying that Jake Tapper is some perfect dude or that he doesn't make mistakes or whatever. I'm just saying this is an example of him using his privilege for good. Because when Jake Tapper just said it's better to be a rich, white, guilty person than an innocent black person in America, than a poor black person in America. When it comes from him, and people hear that coming from him rather than hearing it from me or hearing it from even a powerful black person, they're going to take it more seriously when it comes from him, because that's what white privilege is. You have more credibility automatically just because of the color of your skin. So if Don Lemon would have said that, even though Don Lemon's not at CNN anymore, then it wouldn't have held the same weight. If what's her name, Abby Kirk, the black CNN anchor, if she would have said it, then it wouldn't have held the same weight as when Jake Tapper says it, because that's what privilege is. And that's an example of Jake Tapper using his privilege for good. And that's why we have this segment, to point out privilege, not to talk negatively about white people, but just to point out privilege and explain that you can use that privilege for good, and it really makes a difference. They saved this young man because they used their privilege for good. So that's why I wanted to highlight Jake Tapper as this week's What in the White Entitlement.
It's white.
I'll give it to you, Danny, if you want to make any comments on that.
Man, it's just a good example of using your privilege or your influence, or to help others. Because what they try to do is, when I say they, I mean people like DeSantis in Florida. They try to say that people don't make them feel guilty, like the ancestors of people in Florida. Right. So they, to create this woke thing, whatever. So now, this is the opposite of that. This is combating that. So, don't feel bad because you're a certain ethnic background or you come from affluency or opulence. Don't feel bad about that, because be a philanthropist. Help someone. Mm-hmm. There's people less fortunate than you. So if you have, too much is given, much is required. So we don't want people to feel stagnated just because you may be Caucasian or you may be rich or you may be privileged. It's a gift from God. Help somebody. How do we know people are not helping people? And that's why you have to be clear on what you say, because some people may soundbite something and say, oh, you talking about white people. Oh, you talking about black people. You talking about people. No, I'm talking about how to help people. I'm in a situation of privilege. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm going to help somebody. And it evens out and balances it out. We need some balance here instead of people just using what we say and pointing and soundbiting and cutting clips and stuff, shipping it off, trying to create more discord and ununifying people.
All right, Dr. Fletcher, I got about 35 seconds for you if you wanted to say anything about that.
Yeah, no, I like the example. We all hold a privilege. It just so happens in this country, the most recognized, highest form of privilege is white male privilege. And these types of segments, again, I like that it wasn't simply calling out someone misusing their privilege, but it showed an example that hopefully everyone will take to realize that if you don't turn a blind eye to the privilege you have, but use it for good as opposed to self-serving means. So I applaud that effort.
All right, brothers, appreciate y'all. And I especially appreciate that y'all are going to stay here for the next hour, because we're going to have a conversation about some things that don't have to do with politics, including March Madness, and why are these black female music artists hating on Beyonce? I don't know, but we'll talk about it when we come forward after this news, traffic, and sports update on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Tyreek Wynn. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. A second flight of American citizens fleeing Haiti has reached the United States safely. On Thursday, a flight evacuating 80 Americans landed in Miami. The State Department has encouraged all U.S. citizens to leave Haiti as political unrest and gang violence escalates. A former police officer of the Goon Squad, of former officers who tortured 2 black men in Mississippi,